If you want to take out your assessment sheets, maybe you don't want to look at it right now, but we'll look at it for a few minutes before our lecture this evening. And the item that we want to start with is your percentage of body fat. And most people get this wrong, so hopefully we get it right before the evening is over. I have people, when they look at their thing, and it says there, for a man, ideal is 15%, and for a lady, 24%. When they look at that and they say, oh, I got way too much fat. And that means they got it wrong. Okay, so hopefully we can clarify that, because if that's the perception that you get, is that you have too much fat, then you're not getting the picture. Okay, so let's see if we can give it to you. The average man in North America dies of heart disease or cancer, and the average woman dies of heart disease or cancer. That's the average. So it's around 74%, about 50% of heart disease, 24% of cancer. So you don't want to be average, you want to be as healthy as possible. Now, I want us to show you what's going on here to give you the picture, because then it starts to clarify it. If we have a person, this lady is 20 years old, and at 20 years old, her body was 22% body fat, which we would consider healthy. She weighed 120 pounds, okay, which means that she was carrying 26 pounds of fat, and her lean body mass was 94 pounds. Ideal weight, 120. All right? Now, when she got to be 35, she says, well, I've only gained 5 pounds. See, that's not much, right? I mean, can you imagine? From 20 to 35, 15 years, I've only gained 5 pounds. But then when we put her on the scale, we found out that she went from 22% or 24% to 30% body fat. So now she has gained only 5 pounds, right? But what's happened to her fat is she's 38 pounds of fat. How many pounds of fat was she carrying before? 26. How many more pounds of fat is she carrying now than what she was carrying before? 38 minus 6 is 12. She gained only 5 pounds of total weight, but she gained 12 pounds of fat. Are you with me? Which means what? She's only got 87 pounds now of lean body mass. How many pounds did she have before? So she has 7 pounds less muscle now to push around this much more fat. Are you with me? So really what it's all about is a ratio between lean body mass and fat mass. With this many pounds of muscles, she should ideally only be weighing 112 pounds. Are you with me? So when that muscle tissue goes down, your ability to carry it goes down with it. So the problem is when you're starting to see more and more fat, that's not the problem. The problem is you're seeing less and less muscle. You've got less muscle to carry that body. What is the most important muscle in your body? Your heart. Your heart works in cooperation with the muscles in your body. The heart's pumping the blood out, and the muscles are assisting it on its return trip, right? The muscles, the strength of the muscles, of the legs in particular, are helping to push the blood back. And if the muscles are becoming weak, what's happening? The body itself, the heart is part of that muscle group. And so really what we want to do is we want to make sure that if our body fat percentage is going up, that means our muscles are going down. And what's the only way you can increase your muscle tissue? With what? Dieting? No. With exercise. When people say, I got too much fat, immediately they start thinking dieting. No. What I want you to think when you see your fat going up, your muscles are going down, and immediately you should start thinking exercise. That's what I need. My body needs more exercise. Invariably, when I talk to people and they say to me, wow, my fat is sure going up, and I ask them the question, do you exercise? Well, the last I guess it's been about 6 months. I really haven't done that much. Are you with me? And really what they're saying is I need to do more exercise. And that's really where the secret is. If you can get healthy muscle tissue, you're going to find this thing straightens itself out right away. Remember, for every 1,000 calories you eat, 900 of them are going to be burnt by your muscles. 90% of them are going to be burnt by your muscles. You think of your hair or your skin or your bones, they don't burn a lot of muscles. The active tissue burn a lot of calories. The active tissue in your body is your muscles. There's where your engine is. That's where the fire is. If that engine's getting smaller, what's happening? You got less fire, less ability to burn calories. So here I have a great big Cadillac with a 2-cylinder motor. You with me? So I don't need much fuel. If I want to be able to burn more fuel, I've got to get more muscle tissue. And so it's really muscle tissue that really is going to be the success in that part of the equation. So we go down to the step test and we start seeing the same thing. What you want to have happen here is when you get onto that step test and you go up and down, up and down, up and down, your heart rate invariably goes up. Well, some people are going to say, well, mine didn't go up that much, but your heart rate is going to go up because you're exercising. Then when you stop exercising, your heart rate after 5 minutes should be returning to normal, back to the original figure as close as possible. If it's staying up there, what it means is your heart is not catching up as quickly as it should, to the demand that's being put on it. Again, an indication that you should be doing more exercise. Exercise would help your heart, strengthen your heart. You can actually it is a muscle, and when these muscles here start putting a load on that heart will beat to try and supply the oxygen for the muscles in our legs. When we start exercising, the demand that we put on the heart makes it stronger. I have seen over and over again people that have come to our place with heart problems, heart conditions, and through exercise, strengthen that heart muscle. Fortunately, the body will actually build collateral circulation that it will build around problems in the heart, and actually increase the circulation, strengthening that heart muscle. But it requires exercise, regular, routine exercise to do that part of it. And so this is an indication of that. And then, of course, when we go down to the blood pressure, if you're scoring 140 over 90, I didn't look at any of the blood pressures. I wasn't looking at that. I was doing the percentage of body fat. But if you look at your thing and it says it's over 140 over 90, you're in what's called the treatable area. In other words, this is a spot where the physician is going to say to you, let's start testing you. What I recommend to people when they get that kind of a reading, when you're in here in a hall with a whole lot of people around you and, everybody's all blah, 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 I don't take that one reading as something that's going to be, catastrophic. What I'm going to say is, okay, you've got this one high reading. I recommend that you take another reading, sometimes when you get home, and another reading. And if you're still getting some high readings, get yourself a blood pressure cuff and start taking it all the time throughout the week. And if you're still getting it, get to your physician and start finding out what it is that's keeping it up there. If it's just a one-time high reading, it's quite common for your blood pressure to go up and it goes back down. Stress is all it takes to put it up. All it takes is a number of different things. Your blood pressure can go up and it can come back down. But if it's continuing to stay up, then it's time to start doing something about it. We need to bring it back down. And there's a number of ways your physician can talk to you about it, but if it's going to stay up there, you need to start doing something about bringing it down. At the guest house, we would give you a number of simple things that you could start to try to see if you can deal with the stress. Get yourself into a regular exercise program. Just a simple regular exercise program is all that many people need to start bringing it back down, because it does a number of things. It helps them to control their stress. It also helps the heart rhythm, helps the strength of the heart, helps the circulatory system in general. And so that's maybe all the person needs if they're not exercising. So these are the three tests that we gave you, and hopefully they help to clarify in your mind, just gives you kind of like a little snapshot of where you're at. If you're starting to show yourself as being high on body fat, which means you're lower on muscle than you should be, then you already know, without me telling you, I really need to get into an exercise program. 3 40-minute walks a week should bring you back to a fairly good spot. 3 40-minute walks a week. Now, I have some people that are doing some math here. 3 40-minute walks. Let's see. That's 6 20-minute walks. Well, let's see. That's 12 10-minute walks, right? It's 24 5-minute walks. I think I can do that. I think I can. I just have to keep a star on the board there, and every time I do a 5-minute walk, is that the same? No. What's the difference? I'm not trying to go after heart rate, but I'm trying to go after duration, okay? What it takes to make healthy muscle tissue, which is what we're really talking about here, developing healthy muscle tissue, is duration of exercise. Not so much putting the heart rate up for a short period of time, but that duration, that steady exercise. What it's going to start doing is developing healthier muscle tissue. How many of you have seen unhealthy muscles? Have you ever seen an unhealthy muscle? Where have you seen it? Don't tell me on your spouse. No. Have you seen it? I'll tell you where you can see unhealthy muscle tissue. You go to a Safeway store. Do you have that down here, Safeway? You must have food store. Just go to a food store. Go to the freezer cabinet and look down in there at the steak. That is an unhealthy muscle. Why do you know it's unhealthy? What's in it? It's all fatty marbled. What they did is they had this animal exercising, develop a strong frame, and then before they ship him, what do? They put him in what we call a feed. What is a feedlot? What is it? It's a enclosure where they're not allowed to do what? Only one thing they stop them from doing. No exercise. They don't let them exercise. Do they give them milkshakes? No. Burgers? No. Fries? No. Pizza? No. What do they give them? Granola bars. You know, another granola bar. Here, have some more grain. Have some more grain. Just don't move. And if you could take a look at that muscle, if you took that muscle when they came off the range and cut it up, it would be solid protein. Just muscle tissue. That's what it is. Just full of protein. And you wouldn't buy it, you wouldn't eat it. But what they do is they take it to a feedlot, and they let them sit still, and they keep on feeding them this grain. And then pretty soon that fat starts to replace that protein in that muscle. It starts getting more and more fat in the muscle, and pretty soon you've got a fatty muscle. Same size. The cow didn't get big and fat. It just got fatty muscle tissue. Exactly the same thing happens to you in front of the TV. You're sitting there watching the TV, and your muscles are starting to get fatty, see? And that's what that scale is showing you. Your muscles are getting fattier and fattier. You don't know it. They look the same, don't look any different. When you try to carry the piano around the basement, it's harder than it used to be, right? So you don't have the same strength you used to have, right? And so those muscles are getting weaker and they're becoming fattier. Now, if I wanted to take that cow now and make him into a strong animal, what would I have to do? Put him on a diet. There you go. Don't give him anything to eat. No, that's what we try to do ourselves. No, we know when we look at that muscle, if I'm going to make that muscle healthy, I'm going to have to put him on an exercise program. And what happens when I get him exercising, the muscle says, away with this fat, burn it up, get rid of it, so we can get that muscle back to health again. And that, for a human being, is about 40-minute exercise program, at least 3 times a week. Make that commitment to yourself. Start taking care of your health. It's the most important asset that you have. The most important part of you is your health. Taking care of it is really getting into that exercise program. Is there any questions at all about the evaluations, assessments? Good. Okay, well, let's get into the lecture that we have here for this evening. Where do you get your food? Garden. Anybody else? Where do you get your food? Where? Grocery store, sure. And when you go, what's your favorite food to buy? Come on, tell me what your favorite food is. What's that? Tomatoes. You too? I'll tell you how, after you come to me, and I'll tell you how to make a tomato taste absolutely fabulous. Okay, anybody else? Carrots. Oh, come on, you guys. You try to tell me your favorite food is broccoli. Come on. I'm supposed to believe this is a health retreat, right? Here I am in a health retreat, and I've got this person who weighs 400 pounds, and I say, what's your favorite food? Broccoli. You didn't get looking like that eating broccoli. Come on. What's that? Pizza. Yeah, that's one of the 4 food groups. What else? What's your favorite foods? Yes. Beans. Okay, well, we still got that going on. Spinach. Wow, you guys are all so fit and healthy. What am I doing lecturing? I may as well just quit. Avocado. Yeah. Food. Any name, any shape, any style, just give it to me. Yeah, you're my style, yeah. Tacos, right on. What kind? Bean tacos. Bean tacos. Yeah, okay. So when you drive your buggy down the road, you're pushing your buggy down the aisle, right? And you're loading it up, you're putting in there food, right? Pasta and pizza and vegetables like spinach and all those good things. You're pushing it down. And you get to where the checkout counter is. You ever notice what they got at the checkout counter? Well, but they got all these magazines, How to lose 10 pounds in 1 week. How to fit your bikini before the summer. Blah, blah, blah. You ever seen that? Oh, at the end of that's right there, 17 ways to lose weight. Blah, blah, blah. So, may as well get one of them. I don't know why they sell that in the food store. What are they doing? They're going to put themselves out of business right there. But anyway, so you grab one of them and take it home. And you get home and it starts saying to you, well, you should be eating so much protein, and you should be eating so much carbohydrate, and you should not be eating so much fat, blah, blah, blah. They give you all these percentages, right? So you think, okay, I'm going back shopping, and I'm going to get it right. So you're pushing your buggy down there, and you start looking at all the signs up there. You ever seen a sign that says carbohydrates? No. You drive it down another aisle looking for the protein aisle. Do they have a sign that says protein? So you pick up the can and you pick it up and you look at it. In our country, we have grams. Down here, you have ounces. So this is a 12-ounce can, and it says one serving size, which happens to be 3 ounces of this product, gives you 8% of your daily needs of this, 15% of that, 24% of that, and you go like, whoa, I need a calculator. I think I'll just put it in the buggy. And you take it, go down, and you go a little further. And then you pick up this vegetable, and it doesn't have anything on it. You can't even find anything. Well, how many grams of protein is in this thing? Oh, I'll put it in the buggy. Pretty soon you put this magazine aside and just start pushing the buggy. Forget it, right? I hope our family's getting the right stuff. Isn't that right? And then somebody comes along and says to you, you know what? You need to get some antioxidants. Oh, wow, antioxidants. I don't know. Where do I get antioxidants? And then somebody else comes along and says to you, well, you know, there's phytochemicals. Are you getting all your phytochemicals? You're like, phytochemicals? I don't know. Maybe I better take one of those multivitamins on the way out, grab one of them and put it in here. And then some friends come over and they say to you, you know what? We got this miracle product. You should get a hold of this miracle for $40 a month. Well, actually, it's actually $60 a month. Well, I guess I'll take it, but I won't be able to give it to the kids. I'll make sure I get enough. Oh, man, is it getting complicated? Right? There you go. Well, let's try and look at it from a simpler viewpoint. There are 3 macronutrients. Macro means what? There's 3 major nutrients, and there's many, many micronutrients. The 3 macronutrients are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Those are our 3 macronutrients. And what we're doing in our Western world, and I'm going to show you this, we're eating those nutrients from incorrect sources, and then we're running around trying to find micronutrients to make up for the expensive micronutrients to make up for the mistake. Are you with me? So we're eating those macronutrients from incorrect sources, and they're running around trying to find micronutrients at expensive prices to make up for the difference. And hopefully that gets clearer for us as we go through this. So we have 3 macronutrients. What are they? Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Okay? Now, where does food come from? What does it take to, if we were going to start producing food, and you do a lot of that around here, I see you got a real good agricultural community. What do I need to make food? What are some of the ingredients? Right here. I need air, water, sunlight, and soil. And if I have just that, what have I got? If we took soil, put it in a pail, mixed it with water, put it out in the sunlight, what have I got? Mud pies, right? We fed our dollies with them, right? Everybody fed dollies. Yeah, mud pies. And if you ate them, how much nutrient would you get? You would die eating mud pies. If that's all you ate was mud pies, every society that goes into starvation mode, eventually they find the people with their stomach full of mud, and they died. And they eat anything finally when they get starving, and it will not support life. What do we have to support life? Well, we've got sun. What else do we have to have? We have to have plants. Why? Why do we have to have plants? Okay, what's the green stuff in plants that's so important? Chlorophyll. What does it do? You remember this from grade 5. The word was a big long word. It had to do with photography. Photosynthesis. Remember that? What it does is it takes the sunlight, combines it with the nutrients from the soil, and it produces carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. The factory that does that is the leaf of a plant, right? That's what does it. Is there any other factory that produces food on this planet besides plants? Produces it. I mean, an animal cannot lay out in the sunlight and make food, right? Has to eat plants or eat other animals that eat plants. Is there any other source of food on this planet besides plants? Yes or no? I'm asking you. You're going to tell me? You're not going to tell me. There is no other source of food on the planet besides plants. Plants is where it all came from. People tell me if I ate just plants, I'd be missing something. Well, we all, somewhere along the line, had to eat plants, right? Somebody had to eat it. I mean, maybe the fish ate it, or the cow ate it, or the deer ate it, or somebody ate the plants, but somebody had to eat the plants, because that's where food comes from. Okay, so this is now, how much of our Western diet comes from plants? That's the next question. Well, 12% of our calories comes from fruits, vegetables, legumes, and nuts. 19% comes from grains. 17% comes from sugar, 17% comes from free fats, 15% comes from from dairy products, and what's the last percentage? 20% comes from meat, poultry, and fish, okay? So how much of that's coming directly from plants? Well, directly from plants, the dairy products is secondhand. It's coming from plants, but the animals have eaten it first. Coming directly from plants, well, let's go through it. Grain. If you were to go to town and buy grain, what would you buy? Oatmeal? Anybody else? Rice, okay. Quinoa, okay. Wheat, right. Barley, good. What's the favorite way we have of eating grain in our society? Bread, right? When I was doing a talk at Camp Hope, 200 young people, I held up 2 slices of bread, one white and one brown. And I asked them, if your mother was making you a lunch, what would you ask her to make it out of, white bread or brown bread? I had 200 voices in unison say, we want white bread. 97% of all the grain that's sold in North America is refined, 97%. Ravioli, macaroni, spaghetti, pizza dough, cake mix, right? Well, down here you'd have, we call it Tim Hortons, you call it Starbucks, where you have all the white muffins and tarts and all that kind of stuff. Box cereals, 97% of all the grain is refined. When we refine it, what do we take out? The micronutrients. There goes the vitamin B1, there goes the vitamin B, there goes the iron, there goes the calcium. That's taken out when we refine it. Sugar. If we, how many teaspoons of sugar do you think were consumed per man, woman, and child in this country? Teaspoons of sugar. Per day. Well, let me tell you, a 12-ounce can of pop has between 9 and 12 teaspoons of sugar. So what do you think we consume per day in this country? 40. Per day. About 36 teaspoons a day. That equals 90 feet of sugar cane. Are you with me? So here we've taken a plant and we put it in a process where we can take 90 feet of it and put it in 3 cans of pop. No wonder when we drink it, our body says, where'd that come from? What's that? How do I handle that? I don't have any mechanism for handling that. I think I'll just store it. Let's put it over here and over here. Okay? How much of our calories come from that? 17%. What's free fat? How many of you go to Costco? You must you have Costco around here? Do they have samples? You walk around there and you get a sample, and then you're hungry. And you go around and get another one, and you kind of change your hair a little, go and get another one. Right? Then you send your kid over to get one more, and then you got your meal, right? Is that free fat? It's free, but it's not free fat necessarily. What's free fat? Dr. Budwig from Germany said that free fat is unprotected fat. See, fat in nature always comes with a protector. So there's always fiber and protein and antioxidants and things like that comes with the fat. So if I take 1 tablespoon of corn oil, it takes 12 to 14 ears of corn. 1 tablespoon of corn oil. Can you imagine if you ate 1 tablespoon of corn oil, eating it from the corn? Wow, it'd be a lot of chewing. Wow, I'd have a pretty full tummy. 1 tablespoon. But I can take 1/4 of a cup or 1/2 a cup, put it into a batch of chocolate chip cookies, and my wife and I on a Saturday night watching the movies can eat 1/4 of a cup or 1/2 of a cup of corn oil, which represents about 2 bushels of corn, in 1 sitting. That's called free fat. She called it unprotected fat, meaning it doesn't have the fiber, antioxidants, all the things that it takes for the body to metabolize. It's not protected. So if we took the grain, 19%, the sugar, 17%, and the free fat at 17%, if we added those three together, what would be our total? 17 and 17 is 34, and 20 would be 54 minus 1 because we only got 19. That would be 53% of the calories that we consume in North America are coming from refined foods. These are foods where we've taken away the micronutrients. Are you with me? So now we're all of a sudden, what does that tell you? We got 53% coming from this. That means out of the remaining 47%, I've got to get all my vitamins and minerals and all the things I need. Are you with me? So all of a sudden I'm running short of those things. Now if I'm going to change my diet anywhere, I have people that come up to me, they know we run a vegetarian lifestyle center, and they come up to me and they tell me, Phil, guess what? What? I don't eat any more red meat. And I'm supposed to jump up and down, wow, hey, isn't that great? Woo! You know, and maybe they eat Twinkies and Ding Dongs and Dilly Bars and Jujubes. And what do cows eat every day? What do they eat? There they are, in the salad bowl again. Oh, another green salad. There we go. Another green salad. There we go. More greens. Having greens for breakfast, greens for dinner, greens for supper. I'm not eating any more cows, but I'm going to eat Twinkies and Ding Dongs and Dilly Bars and Jujubes and Almond Roca and all these things that would kill cows, right? See, does that make sense? You see what is going on here? I'm not really, when people tell me they don't eat something, I'm not really interested in what they don't eat. I'd really like to know what they do eat. See, there's no such thing as a no diet. It's not what I'm not eating that's keeping me healthy. It's what I am eating that's keeping me healthy. So what do I eat? If we're going to change our diet anywhere at all, this is the place to begin with these three. If we're going to change our refined grains, 97%, we would change it to more whole grains. Are you with me? Starting to eat more whole grains. If we wanted to get the sugar part of it, we would start eating more fruits. Did you know that the statistics for North America is this? 45% of North Americans claim that they eat no fruit. Not a little bit of fruit. They eat no fruit. 45% of North Americans claim they eat no fruit and only 2 vegetable servings a day, and those are largely fried potatoes. Now, if we're going to change our health situation anywhere at all in this country, there's where we're going to start, see? People want to start by throwing out the red meat. Well, look, where I want to start is by eating more whole grains, more fruits, and more seeds and nuts when it comes to fats. See, these are the healthy fats. More seeds and nuts, more fruits and vegetables, and more whole grains. Now, what about the next 2 groups? What about the dairy products, meat, poultry, and fish? What do you think about those things? Okay, look, here I am driving in my car. I've got a lecture to a cooking school. There's 55 people there. I'm driving over to this cooking school. And I'm listening. You have NPR down here, right? National Public Radio. I used to listen to it when I was in California all the time. NPR. Love it. They got all kinds of good stuff. You're learning all politics and everything. In Canada, we have CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. See, and they got all this stuff, same as NPR. So I'm driving along in my car, going to a cooking school. And on the CBC, you know what they're talking about? Some cat in Germany ate a bird that had bird flu and dropped dead. The cat dropped dead. And chicken sales in Germany dropped 30%. It's like overnight, boom. See, a cat is a mammal. Well, I happen to be called a mammal too, a warm-blooded creature. And this warm-blooded creature ate a bird that had bird flu and it died. Well, you don't have to do the math very much, do you? I mean, if it kills a cat, it's going to kill a human if I eat a bird that happened to have bird flu. So I go over there and I drive over the store and I said, well, when it comes to dairy products and meat and poultry and fish, what do you guys think? And everybody was just like you, just dead silent. I guess I'd be silent too. I don't know what to say. I mean, what are you going to say? I don't know what to think. We have in Canada, we have provinces, you have states, but one of our provinces is the beef producer for the whole country, Alberta. These are the big guys, right? Right on the side of the highway, They got a big chicken like this, see? Standing there like this. It says right beside the chicken, if the mad cow doesn't get you, I will. You know, we're all starting to think about our food chain, right? I mean, we didn't know they were feeding sheep parts to cows. I didn't know that, did you? I didn't know that kind of thing. So we're all starting to think about our food chain. What's going on with it? Should I be eating these things? I have people come up to me and say, Phil, you know, I got an aunt. She lived to be 97. You know, she ate 3 strips of bacon and 2 eggs every day of her life. She probably washed it down with a bit of rum. You know, she did really well. I mean, she did great, you know. What's wrong with this, right? It's okay. But you know something? I talked to that aunt. You know what she told me? She says, the chicken today is not like it used to be at all. Did you hear her say that? Of course you did. See, we're not looking at the same product. We'd have to put our head in the sand to think that what we're eating today is what she was eating when she lived to 97 on it. It's not the same product. It's a totally different product. And that's what we're talking about. I've had people come to my place and say, well, look, Phil, you can take everything away, but you're not taking away my fish. Well, okay, well, I'm not taking anything away. I'm just talking to you about products. They said, well, Jesus multiplied fish, so fish are okay. But when I was in New York City lecturing, the New York Times said, if you're pregnant, do not eat fish caught on the eastern seaboard. It may harm your pregnancy. Now, these are not the fish that were caught in the Sea of Galilee 2,000 years ago. Are you with me? We're living in a different world, a world where chemicals and all kinds of pesticides and all kinds of things are in the environment that have changed the world we live in, and we should be cognizant of it and start planning in the right direction. I'm not telling people what to do. I'm just saying, let's plan in the right direction. Here we go. Today's meats, dairy products, and eggs are vastly different commodities of those even 30 years ago, as factory farmed animals have as much as 30 times more saturated fat than yesterday's pasture-raised creatures. The products from factory farms contain residues from pesticides, hormones, growth stimulants, insecticides, tranquilizers, radioactive isotopes, herbicides, antibiotics, appetite stimulants, and larvicides. There's a whole lot of stuff going into the food chain. Now, I've had people say to me, but Phil, they spray fruits and vegetables, right? They do. I mean, I was up in Washington State. I had to duck. The plane was flying over top, and just zoom right over and spray the crops, the ground crop. What's the difference? What's the difference? Does anybody know? Well, it takes 12 pounds of vegetation to produce 1 pound of flesh. So if I'm eating the vegetation directly, I'm not getting the same load as if I'm eating it after it's gone through the animal. Are you with me? It just takes so much more vegetation. Whatever we're doing to the vegetation, which is unhealthy, is just magnified when it gets to the animal product. That's the only problem. And so if you wanted to go a healthier road, even though you may be eating sprayed things, it's still healthier for you to go down the plant-based diet than it is to go down through an animal-based diet. Well, if we went back to 1860, we're not going to give you a whole lot of figures just to snowball you. We want to go back shopping, don't you? I mean, that's what everybody likes to do. We're going to go shopping, and we'll go back and push our buggy down the aisles, and we'll be able to understand it really clearly where we're going with this. If we went back to 1860 and we went into the Harvard School of Medicine, you see that the beauty of these medical schools is they keep accurate records. So if you go through these schools of medicine, you can go into their records and you can read what types of diseases we had in 1860. They can even read who the surgeon was that was doing the operation, who the scrub nurse was, who the janitor was, how long the operation took, and what they used to knock the person out. Everything is there. So you can read it all. And if we went back to the Harvard School of Medicine in 1860, we'd find out that we had 2 cardiac atherosclerosis patients a year, 2 a year. Now we have 50% of our population dying of that disease. Something changed between 1860 and 1980 when heart disease is reaching its peak. What is it that changed? Well, if we went back to our diet, we'd find out that 10% of our calories came from protein, 22% came from fat, 50 to 55% came from complex carbohydrates, and 10% came from protein. If we went to 1980, 15% came from protein, 40 to 45% came from fat, 22% came from complex carbohydrate, and 24% came from sugar. What we did is we halved our complex carbohydrates, We doubled our sugar and we doubled our fat. And it changed our entire outcome. When we have people that come to our guest house, they'll say to me, well, I don't eat bread. It makes me fat. You know something? In the turn of the century, we were eating 300 pounds of grain per person per year. You know what we're eating now? Just about 125. And what do you think is happening? Are we getting skinnier or fatter as a nation? We're getting heavier as a nation. We're eating less and less grain, and we're getting heavier. Doesn't seem to make any sense, does it? We're going in a different direction. So what would an ideal diet look like? Let's go through a couple of figures here. Our Western diet at this time, what we've got going on here is we've got 45% of our calories come from both simple and complex carbohydrates, 12 to 15% comes from protein, 40 to 45% comes from fat. That's what we have that's taking place right now. Now, a fellow came along and said, this man was called Nathan Pritikin. Has anybody heard of Nathan Pritikin? Okay, there's a couple people. Nathan Pritikin was a fellow that started what was called it was a heart clinic, basically, that took place in Santa Barbara, California. And what Nathan Pritikin did was he said, well, he himself was supposed to be having a bypass operation. He decided to change his lifestyle, see if that made any difference. And he said, well, if I ate less fat, I wonder if this would reverse the problem in my heart. And so that's what he did. And then he developed a program where he brought in people and put them on this diet. He gave them 10% fat, 10% protein, 80% carbohydrate. Okay, you with me? Now take those figures. 10% protein, 10% fat, 80% carbohydrate. 60 Minutes did a special. Here's a fellow who's got heart disease. They go into his home. He's selling his business. They got a 2-story house, they're selling their home. He can't run up and down the stairs. He can't load the suitcases into the back seat of the car. They put him on a treadmill test, he can't make any headway at all. He ends up going to the Longevity Center, Santa Barbara, California, run by Nathan Pritikin. Spends a month, comes back. The cameramen are there to meet him when he gets out of the car. Gets out of the car, grabs his 2 suitcases, runs up the stairs 2 at a time, drops them down in the middle of the floor, picks up his honey, spins her around on the floor. They go off to the doctor, they put him on the treadmill test, and there he is, just running away on the treadmill. And they're asking the doctor, well, what happened? What happened to this fellow? And what he did is he went on a 10-10-80 diet, 10% protein, 10% fat, 80% carbohydrate. Changed his entire health. There's another man that wrote a book, Dr. Dean Ornish. You may have heard of him. It's a little more recent. And he wrote a book called Reversing Heart Disease. Basically tracked exactly what Nathan Pritikin said. Same thing. Now, how many of you have heard of the Zone diet? Has that ever been around here? Come on, put your hands up high. Zone. Atkins? If you haven't heard of the Atkins diet, you had to be dead, right? It was on everything. The Zone diet, Barry Spears, who was probably the father of the low carbohydrate diet, said if you ate a 70% or 80% carbohydrate diet, you'd become a diabetic. Now, try to explain this to me. I want you to do some thinking. Nathan Pritikin, running the Longevity Center, puts people on an 80% carbohydrate diet and reverses heart disease. Barry Spears says if you go on an 80% carbohydrate diet, you become a diabetic. Do those two things match? What's wrong with it? What's missing here? Where's the mistake? That's exactly. It was in Barry Spears' book on the Zone diet, did not make any differentiation between simple and complex. He just said carbohydrates. And so I've had people come to my guest house and say, I don't eat any carbs. I go, oh, really? Don't eat any? No, I don't eat carbs anymore. Now, Nathan Pritikin put them on. Where did Nathan Pritikin get his diet? Where do you think he got it? Did you know that what this 10-10-80 diet is really? In reality, the largest share of people on this planet are eating the 10-10-80 diet. These are people in rural Africa, rural India, rural Philippines, South America. Most of the people on our planet are eating around a 10-10-80 diet. It's what they're able to eat. And they don't have diabetes. But the carbohydrates they're eating are what we call complex carbohydrates. Plants, that's what they're eating, mostly like the plants, okay? Now what we're going to recommend to you is what we call the ideal diet. 20% fat, 10% protein, 70% carbohydrate. Now we're going to go shopping. I want you to go shopping with me. Are you with me? You've got those figures written down. Keep them in mind. 70% carbohydrate, 10% protein, 20% fat. The reason why we're giving you 20% instead of 10% fat is because 10% is therapeutic, and you're going to feel like it. There goes the avocados, there goes the walnuts, there goes the, you're going to be right down to a pretty sparse diet. You're not going to stay with it. You know what I found out with people? If you get them too short on the leash, you know what they do? Oh, you got the word, lady, binge. And when they binge, they don't binge on broccoli. They just don't. They just go down there and they get themselves some of that pickin' chicken, and blah, 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 all that stuff, that good, icky, sticky, whatever. And so don't keep the leash too short. Get a lifestyle you can live with, you know what I mean? Every day, keep on doing it rather than getting it short and then binging, which is really not as healthy as keeping it on. So this is why we go to 20% fat, 10% protein, 70% carb. Let's go shopping. All right, so we're going to go to the meat counter first. Let's go to hamburger, second one on the list. How much protein? Can anybody read that? 49% protein. How much fat? 50% fat. How much carbohydrate? How much are we shooting for on carbohydrate? 70. So we didn't get any at the hamburger stand. We didn't get any protein at all. All right, let's go down to sirloin steak. Let's do broiled. How much protein? 25% protein. How much fat? 75% fat. How much carbohydrate? 0. Now, we run cooking schools all over the country. And one of the questions that people ask me is, where's the protein dish? Now, if I had sirloin steak on there, what would they say? There's the protein dish, right? Now, this is a little tiny bit of protein with a great big gob of ice cream on the side. 75% of the calories in that steak are what? Fat. I'm going to show you a little later on here where you can get protein with basically no fat. Way, way more protein. But anyway, because we got this idea focused in our mind that somehow animal products are protein dishes instead of fat dishes, we got it mixed up. Let's go down to pork. What's the percentage of protein in pork? 28%. What's the fat? 71. Now listen, I got to tell you a story. We had a lady that came to the guest house, and then make me finish this story because I sometimes forget to tell all the details, and people got here with the wrong idea. We had a lady that came and had a heart attack at the guest house. Where would we take her? To the hospital. The next day I went to see her. I felt bad. I mean, this lady came to get well. She's had a heart attack. She's in the ICU unit that we have in our country, intensive care unit. In the intensive care unit, they've got her hooked up to a monitor, and you can actually tell which valve opened when. I mean, it's accurate, everything. It's printouts. And they got a drip into her arm, which is giving her anticoagulants or whatever to stop the blood from sticking together, because your heart not only pumps blood, but it mixes the blood. When the heart's having an attack, it can actually stop mixing it. Next thing you know, you get clots. And so they're trying to stop that from happening. So I was having a chat with her, and I said to her, I felt bad. What did you have for lunch today? Making small talk. What do you think she told me? Pork chops. Now, what are they putting in here? Something that's an anticoagulant. What are they putting in here? 70% fat. I mean, if you take the blood tube, we have in our country, up in Richmond, we have a whole lot of people that emigrated from Hong Kong. And if you take their blood tube, the lab technician that came to our guest house told me when you take the blood tube, when they first come, it's like water. And after they westernize, it starts getting thicker. Where is the thickness coming from? The fatty foods, right? We're getting more and more fat in there. This is where the thickness is coming from. And what's going on here is this lady's got a compromised circulatory system right now, and we're putting in there pork chops. See where the fat is? If we go down to good old BC salmon, what is it running? 50% protein, 50% fat. How much carbohydrate? None. Okay, let's go shop some more. Okay, so we went to a poached egg. How much protein? 34%. How much fat? 64. When I first met my wife, I told her, Sunday morning, you sleep in, honey. I'll make breakfast. 3 eggs, break them into the bowl, take some cheddar cheese and grate it up in there, bit of onion. I can make an omelet. Wow. Great cook. I didn't think it had enough fat in it, so I used to put some butter in there, and put in some cheese and try to fatten it up a bit. I didn't know that eggs were 64% fat, did you? No. Well, they're fat enough, right? I don't need to put any more fat in there. What about cheddar cheese? Cheddar cheese is running around 26% protein, 73% fat. Another fatty food. Okay, well that just gives you an idea. Very low in carbohydrates. What if we went to grains? Take a look at oatmeal, rolled oats. What's the percentage of protein in rolled oats? 12%. What are we looking for protein? Around 10, right? What's the fat? Around 15%. What were we looking for in fat? Around 20. What's the carbohydrate? Running around 70%. 71%. What were we looking for? Around 70. I mean, if you were to take any food that made it all the way across, it would be oatmeal, right? There it is. Bang, right on. The Canadian government says if you were to eat any more of one food, you should eat more oatmeal. And what does it cost? What does oatmeal cost? About 37 cents a pound? I mean, you're not going to break the bank on oatmeal. In our country, Scotch people stick it in sheep stomachs. I mean, it's cheap, right? It's cheap food. Oatmeal. All right? If we wanted to get the complex carbohydrates, barley's running at 89, buckwheat's running at 82, cornmeal's running at 83, rolled oats is at 71, rice is at 88, rye is at 78, wheat is at 82. There's all your, you see where the complex carbohydrates are? Right there. Whole grains. Okay, let's take another one. Everything from apples to watermelon, 80s, 90s, except for avocado, high in fat, but all the rest of them, 80s, 90s. See where complex carbohydrates are? Right down there. All of your fruits are all high in complex carbohydrates. All right? And then let's go to everything from asparagus right through. There's a whole list here. I could go on to the next slide. I think the next slide is there too. All the way down to water chestnuts. Again, you're looking at 60s, 70s, 80s. If I wanted to get a 70% complex carbohydrate diet, what would be the 3 foods that I would concentrate on? 3 foods. Grains, fruits, and vegetables. Grains, fruits, and vegetables. And then I would have I'd be assured of getting my complex carbohydrates. What about my protein? What would we say was the percentage of protein we were shooting for? Around 10%. Asparagus is what percentage on your list there? 23%. If we drop down to broccoli, what percentage is it? 27%. If we went to cabbage, what percentage is it? 13%. If you ate just cabbage, would you get enough protein? You'd have the house to yourself too, right? You never thought of that, did you? Look at where does the cow get his protein? He eats it. He eats vegetables. There's your protein, folks. There is hard to find one that's under 10%, isn't there? Okay, I'll make you this statement. If you eat a variety of grains, fruits, and vegetables, a variety, you cannot produce a protein-poor diet. Are you with me? If you eat a variety, if you ate just 1 or 2 different poi or something like that, you might be able to come up with it. But if you eat a variety of fruits, grains, and vegetables, you cannot come up with a protein-poor diet. And yet people are eating all kinds of things trying to get protein. I got to eat a protein dish. No, folks. Protein is there. There's all kinds of it. If you eat a variety of grains, fruits, and vegetables, you'll get enough protein. All right. Now, if you decide to eat this way, grains, fruits, and vegetables, and you invite somebody over for supper, can you imagine, eh? Come on over, we're having oatmeal for supper. When you produce a meal, what's the first thing that you think of? What's the first thing you think of? Well, flavor, but I mean, when you're designing your meal, what's the thing that you build it around? The entree dish, don't you, ladies? Come on, did you? I mean, if you're going to have fish, you're going to have coleslaw. If you're going to have chicken, you're going to have, this, or you're going to have, right? You're going to do it around the protein dish. So now there's going to be a change, a shift in your thinking if you're going to go along with this. In Canada, what we did is we had the 4 food groups, and now what they've done is they were all equal. Equal portion of dairy, equal portion of meat, equal portion of fruits and vegetables, and equal portions of grain. Now we're having 6 to 10 servings of grain, 5 to 7 servings of fruits and vegetables, a small amount of dairy, and 3 ounces maximum a day of meat. This is recommended by the Canadian government. Total shift in thinking. And if we go down that track, we're going to have to start cooking differently, learning new recipes, starting to experience how we can put more plants into our diet. Okay, that's the direction we're having. When we get to this part of the lecture, I have people that say, okay, you've got me convinced. I want to go home. It's almost 8 o'clock. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, that's enough. We had health all weekend. Whew, that's enough. I got the message. Skin the chicken, eat fish instead of steak, light yogurt, light ice cream, light cheeses. Can you get it? It's all possible. You can get low-fat cheeses, you get low-fat yogurt, you get low-fat ice cream, you get low-fat, and you can skin the chicken, you can eat fish instead of steak, whatever. Is that the same? Is that what we're saying? If you haven't written it down, please write down The China Study. Please get this book. Get the book called The China Study. A study done on human nutrition, the largest study done in the history of mankind, done in China by a doctor from Cornell University. What he wrote in the China Study will clarify clearly in your mind a lot of what we call the myths that we've been living in the midst of. Industry has been handing us all kinds of myths along the way, and he was a scientist here in America at Cornell University, one of the leading nutrition schools in America, taught school there for 30 years. He went to China and did a 7-year study on nutrition and debunked many of the myths that you and I have been observing for years. And he wrote the book called The China Study, and he said this. He says, in your plant foods, there are protectors. We call them phytochemicals, end oils, flavones, lectins. These protect the body against heart disease and cancer. They protect you against those diseases. This is what he said. Instead of asking yourself, how low a fat diet should I be eating? How many protectors should I be eating every day? How much protection does my body need? We drive down the freeways and we got benzene gas, we got chlorine gas, we got all these different gases that we're breathing and pesticides and all these kind of things. He says the plants are what protect the body. They have in them these phytochemicals that protect us against disease. The question we should be asking ourselves isn't how low a fat diet we should be consuming, but how many fruits, vegetables, and grains do we need to be consuming every day to protect our bodies? Look at your plate. Where's the food coming from? That's the question. If it's a stalk, if it's a stem, if it's a root, if it's a leaf, if it's a fruit, it's coming from the plants. That's the direction you want to be going in. Okay, that's the direction you want to be heading in. And if you're going in that direction, you're going to get the micronutrients, you're going to get the phytochemicals, you're going to get the fiber, you're going to get the satisfaction, you're going to get the health that those plants have to offer you.